Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family.
Well, welcome. Hi, Suze. How you doing?
I'm great, and we are so excited today to share with you. We have one of our bestest friends, if you will, and he's super professional, Dr. Chris Searcy. How do you feel about that, Doctor?
I feel like it's a very fancy title.
Yeah. Earned and deserved, though. Yeah. Earned and deserved. We invited Chris onto the podcast, one, because we just love him, and two, because we've done life with him, but mainly because he is the missions pastor of Valley Creek Church that we go to, and we want to talk to you today about what it looks like to take your kid on mission. And is it important, and is it valuable? And so,
and before you go into all that, we also ought to give him the other thing is that he was the campus pastor of a Christian school for how many years?
14 years.
And so you have taken how many kids on mission trips?
Conservative, it's got to be at least over 2,500.
Yeah, so led the trip, been responsible for, obviously partnered with people that helped you do it. In how many different locations would you say?
Over 30 countries around the world.
Yeah. And then about how many mission trips? Like if you're 14 times 4, because there's over 50, 60, 75.
I'd say 70% of the trips I've led had a Manning kid. I would say that for sure.
There was a season. There was at least one.
Yeah.
Well, and so what we want to, the reason we talk about all that is because I don't know of many people in the world that have had more experience taking kids on mission than Dr. Chris Searcy.
And so he has a perspective of, what did you see? What did you see in these kids' lives, and why is it valuable to, send a teenager off to another country without their parents?
Yeah, well, first of all, just really excited to be here. Love Crazy Cool Family. Love what you guys are doing. Our family's been transformed by a Crazy Cool Family since the very beginning, the early days. So we love you guys very much.
They were our test subjects.
Yes, they were.
And we're still, yes. We read the Bible and we listen to Crazy Cool Family podcast. That's how we're still making the family work. But all that to say, I think, one of the things that's been just transformative in my life is just seeing God transform other people's lives. And I was involved in Next Gen ministry for basically, now it's been a little over 25 years. And I would say the two most transformative things I've seen happen to teenagers are, one would be a breakup because they're forced
because their worlds have fallen apart.
Because their world's falling apart and their whole perspective is shifting, and they're like, I need Jesus. But the second, really seriously, is actually a mission trip, because they're confronted with this reality of that I'm a part of a much bigger story than just me, in my family, in my context, in my school, in this classroom, at this address, on this street. So many of them, they're kind of like the movie The Truman Show. Like they're the star of their own movie. And then at some point they go on these experiences and realize, oh my goodness, I'm a part of this unbelievable story that God's been telling since the very beginning of time.
Yeah, I remember so our oldest is 35. And so that was been 20. Our oldest Molly was probably, when did she go to China? She was 13, 15?
No, Madeline was 15. So she was a couple of years older.
Yeah. So, and I remember we're going to send our kid to China.
Yeah.
And I was
for 3 weeks.
Yeah, you've got to be kidding me. It's basically, and then how are we going to pay for it and all the different things. So we're going to unpack. So we've probably sent our kids on about 50, 60 different mission trips, the 7, and we've been on a lot now, and we have been converted, if you would. And I think a lot of parents are at that early stage of going, mission trips, what are they, and what should I do? And all these people go on these mission trips, and they raise money for them, and they do all this weird stuff, and I'm scared, and all those things, and so
like, why?
Yeah, and we were there, and so today we're like advocates, just like you are, and so we're going to unpack that a little bit of what does it look like to take your kid on a mission trip, and why should you do it, and all those things. So off we go.
Yeah, so tell us, Chris, you just said the value of it, that it's a world perspective. And I know that being on a bus with, 50, I don't remember how many kids we took one of the mission trips, more than 50, probably 100, and just having their worldview change and having them see people in another country worshiping our God, but seeing the people of that country worshiping our God in a radically different way. And so that's what I remember thinking, this is so valuable in their lives. What did you see as you were taking different groups of kids?
Yeah, Romans 12 talks about how Paul writes that basically what it means that if we want to really understand what true worship is, that we need to have our minds renewed. That we don't want to be conformed. We don't want to be conformed to the image of the ways of the world. We have to renew our minds. And so I think we talked about, a lot about just brushing your minds, cleaning your minds, thinking the way that God thinks. One of the best ways to do that is to take them into a new context where their beliefs are really being challenged. And so when we say something like, this is what I believe about the Bible, and we might say it's the Word of God, it's powerful, but you take your kids and you put them in this environment where you're sitting with someone who they have maybe half the Bible that you have, or maybe a minuscule, they have like no resources at all, but they hang on every single word of Scripture. So I would take these students in these experiences, we would just see, they're like, hey, what's your favorite verse in Uganda? We're talking with a little kid at an orphanage. What's your favorite verse? And then our students would say, John 3:16 or Romans 12:1 and 2 or, Philippians 4:13. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, wow, I memorized Deuteronomy 8 last week. And they're like, they spit out like 60 verses. And our students are like, wow. They're like, hey, what's your next favorite verse? And I'm like, okay, we're out of favorite verses. Yeah. So you take a word like the Bible and it is their bread. It is their water. So you're forced to go, why don't I view the Bible that way? Or you say something like worship. We go to worship and it's announcement, 3 songs, and worship belongs at church, or it's a genre of music I listen to in my car. Then you go to India and you just see these people worship and you're like, they're desperate for God to move today. They need him to move today. And they believe that his presence will show up every single time they walk in the room because they carry the presence of God. So you have to wrestle, okay, what does worship really mean? Yeah. And then even just prayer, you think, okay, well, this is what prayer looks like. And then you take a kid into an environment where they're seeing people pray and it's been 3 hours and it feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't pray like that. And so all of those things really renew and challenge their mind to think, okay, what do I believe about this? And what in the world do I do now with the supernatural movements that I've now been a part of? God's alive and moving, and he's just kind of a part of, he's a compartmentalized part of my normal week, and it really is transformative.
And when you took kids on trips, like, would that happen to everyone, or would it be, just some of them, or what would be like your experience is that a standard, or is it just sometimes happen?
Well, Dallas Willard, he wrote a book called Renovation of the Heart. He talks about how people change, and he says it's vision, intent, and means. You have to have a vision of like, I want to change, or I want to do this. And then there has to be the means, which is the methodology or the experience itself, the program, whatever. I can provide a vision for, hey, this is what this trip is for. This is what we're hoping for. And I can provide the means. I can give a great schedule. We can have great leaders, and we can have a safe place for them to stay, where they feel safe at night when they're sleeping in their bedroom. Not except for that one time that Michael and I stayed. Michael and Damien actually, and I stayed in a barn in Thailand. But that's neither here nor there.
There was the time that we had 50 kids sleeping outside. Remember that? Y'all were covered with mosquitoes, but we won't talk about the horror stories.
But they're still talking about those stories today, where they needed Jesus that night. I'm just telling
Jesus
you, they
needed
Jesus. The blood of Jesus to cover the blood of the mosquitoes that were being sucked out of their bodies. Anyways, but I don't even know what I was talking about.
That's Michael, our son, and Damien, our son-in-law, with you in Thailand.
Yes, you trusted me. Yeah. You trusted me.
No, you're just talking about those experiences and getting outside of themselves.
But don't you think a lot of times what's happening?
But they have to provide. So I can provide the vision, the means.
Yes.
They have to have the intent. Like only them can decide, this is why I'm here and this is what I'm hoping. But God just does. He just
shows up.
When even if your intent isn't right, like I'm just doing this because mom signed me up.
This is where I'm going.
I'm doing this because mom signed me up. I'm doing this because my friend came.
Yeah.
Still because you're actually doing what you were made to do. It's almost like their bodies are like, wait, why does this feel so natural?
Yeah.
You know, I should be playing baseball back at home, or I should be whatever. And they find themselves like, I love seeing God use me to change someone's life.
Yeah.
Even if they're not going to be a pastor or whatever, they're starting to discover my hands were made to serve. My feet were made to go. My mouth was made to talk about God, to talk about Jesus. My mind was made to think like God. My heart was made to come alive whenever the presence of God is in the room. And it's like they literally come to life. And you see a version of them that you wish their parents could see.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm talking about kids to their parents and they're like, you're talking about a different kid. I'm like, I got to see a different one.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have their phones. They didn't have all those little umbilical cord attachments to the world, and they just came alive. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, because what they did, I mean, and I 100% agree, what they did is they took their eyes off themselves and they put their eyes on their purpose, on their calling, on what God, like you said, they stepped into a much higher purpose. And instead of thinking about what that girl thinks of me or what I'm going to wear or what TikTok video I'm going to post or whatever it is that's consuming their mind, they take a step into kingdom living and they thrive in it.
And that's what's crazy is if you have great leaders and you have some standards for a great trip, so you're not just letting anyone or everyone, if there is some kind of intent behind it, if you have that kid in the room that really isn't there for the right reasons, even them at some point, they're an opportunity for someone that is there for the right reasons to be reminded that they're meant to live missionally with the guy sitting next to me on my bus,
for sure.
Not just this tribe that we're trying to reach in this country right now. So
yeah, I remember going as a leader on a mission trip, getting to go. I remember being super excited about the country that we were going to minister in, but knowing that I probably would not see those people again unless salvation was had and I was going to get to see them in heaven someday. I remember being mostly excited about the kids that we were activating their purpose, activating their heart and their soul.
Yeah. It's almost like waiting for Christmas because you're like, oh, they're going to love this. They have no idea what's coming. They have no idea what's about to happen to them. They're going to be in the room.
Be wrecked.
They're about to be just completely, those eyes are about to be full of tears and they have no idea.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the resistance from parents.
Sure.
You know, so parents, like they think, you know, what kind of kid is going to come back from my mission trip, or I feel scared to send them to another country. I know we did, or missions is expensive. There's plane tickets and there's housing and there's food and stuff like that. And so how do you get over those hurdles? What would you say to these parents that are listening? Because we've said right now that missions is important. Do it, make it happen. The experience is worth it. Let's push through their hurdles.
I would just say if serving isn't a part and mission isn't a part of your family theology, then that's where to start. That there needs to be some kind of this is not like, well, Jimmy's made a lot of bad choices. Let's send him to Africa for the summer. You know, like maybe Jimmy might get his life changed. He also, could have a really hard heart, even harder than before he left.
Alive in Africa, but anyway.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that, but I do think that serving and your theology, like what's your family theology about serving, about mission, about
start there.
I would start there of just like this, and parents, man, if you haven't done those kinds of things, you be a part of those kinds of things, and because to me, I think if you look at the scriptures, like Jesus' mission isn't like for the advanced Christian. Mission is what it means to be a Christian. Mission is what it means to be a disciple. Jesus says, follow me and I will make you a fisher of men. So there isn't like so the moment you say yes to Jesus, you're on the team. So you're on the plane, you're on the mission trip called life. So if maybe, but I think for as parents, we just get busy and we're trying to really, so it's sometimes we're like, hey, mission trips feels like this random thing because it's not a part of the way that we even think or talk about as a family anyways. And so I would say that would be the first hurdle is, what is your family? What do you really believe about this? And what would be what do you think about missions and stuff?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, I love that. You don't have to start with big. You don't have to start with, okay, our whole family's going to Africa. You can start with, how can you serve in your community? How can you serve? Where can you volunteer?
Yeah.
What can you do to start exercising that muscle of looking beyond yourself?
But what do you say to that parent that, and I've heard it many times, wow, there's plenty of mission field here at home, and and we don't have to go overseas, but I feel like there's something that is significant about getting away. What would you say to that parent?
I would say Jesus didn't say that. I mean, Jesus actually said, I can't do miracles in my own hometown. People are too comfortable. They don't have any faith here.
Good.
So yes, the city. Yes, your neighborhood.
Start there.
It says but it says Acts 1:8, the last things Jesus says, be witnesses to Judea, so his community, Samaria, like the neighboring city, and also to the ends of Jerusalem, to the ends of the earth. And so it's this idea of, yes, your area for sure, because that's where you live, but there's something about being in different contexts that changes your mind. I mean, think about the disciples. If they would have hung out in Jerusalem all the time, they would have not gotten the mission of God. So what did Jesus do? He sent them out. He sent out the 72, and they went to neighborhoods they weren't comfortable with. We just think, oh, Israel. It was like, no, every 30 miles was a different tribe, different belief systems. And maybe they were Greek, maybe they were Roman, maybe they were hardcore Jew, because there was different levels even in Judaism. So he was always taking them on mission trips. That's why they never stopped moving, because I think he wanted them to see that this is a kingdom thing. It's not like a just you and your house kind of a thing.
I want to stay on that for just a minute, because I think it's just important to get the picture in the parent's mind. Sometimes we create adversity with our kids, so that they can overcome. We create situations, we allow or create situations to where, they get to try new things or whatever, and they have to push through. Well, a mission trip overseas is so much like that. I mean, in that they've got to get on this plane with all the people and all the, and they got to trust the leaders, and the family has to trust the leaders. And then they're going to, nobody speaks the language, and all the things are different. And it's, there's not Burger King on the corner. And
so they have to eat the food.
Yes.
I love that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is exactly, I remember us jumping through hoops to make the kids as uncomfortable as possible.
Yes.
So that they can get out of their comfort zone, so that they can depend on the Lord. I mean, we would get on planes at 3 a.m. just so that we would go into the whole thing exhausted, because then they wouldn't need the Lord. They couldn't rely on their own strength. And so it is, valuable. No air conditioning, I
would say some of the biggest obstacles, obviously money's a big one. I think once again, it's just an idol in our lives typically. And so Jesus talked about money a lot. And so when students are, I would say if you're considering your student to go on a trip or your child to go on a trip, money is a great way for them, a very tangible way for them to see God move.
Yeah.
So they raise money.
Money. It's a beautiful thing, because they're seeing God move and provide and resource. And even if you, maybe you happen to have some means and some resources, so you're like, I could just write a check for this. Great. Or swap a card, I guess. That's fine. But give them something in it to where they feel like they're a part of that process, to where they're mowing lawns or doing chores or something where they have some buy-in. So it's not just they're going to start serving once they get in country. There's some level of preparation that you're doing with them to help begin to serve and get outside of themselves before they go on the trip.
Well, and with that, along with that, we saw it so many times, is the invitation to invite other people in. So into your mission, whether they're investing in it with their $25, $30, $40. And I remember us being so uncomfortable in the beginning, us asking our friends and our parents and our, aunts and uncles and all that stuff to send our kid on mission. But I remember thinking, wait a minute, or somebody telling us, I think that's what it was. No, you're not going to go. And so you're actually investing in the kingdom by giving them the dollars or the money. Then now they're going for you. You're their advocate, and so you're supporting that. And that's when it flipped for me, thinking, okay, and then not only that, but then also the prayer support. That is huge. And you've now invited people into prayer. I can't tell you how many people have prayed for our kids and helped send our kids on mission with their whatever money it was that they sent. And it makes such connections when they do fundraising. Like,
our kids would go to my mom, who's, my mom's in her 90s now, and she would say, she still says to this day, well, now have they raised their money for their mission trip yet? And we're like, well, they've got a few $100s left. Well, I'm going to see if they make it because, I like to give them spending money. And so because she didn't want, but there's and if you would have asked her 25 years ago when we started this, really they're going on mission trips. Why? Yeah. But now it's part of the norm, and she loves to embrace it. They've made a connection. The grandkids, great grandkids actually, have made a connection with my mom through that. No grandkids, but they made a connection with my mom through mission trips.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how we would say, if I talked to a parent and said, hey, what does your kid want to do? Well, I think my kid wants to be in business. You would be so excited if they got an internship their freshman year or their sophomore year or their junior year to do what? Practice their career. Well, all a mission trip is you're practicing sending your kids out of your home into the world. Yeah. Which is the whole purpose of being a family anyway. Your job as a family is to send out the arrows, right? To send them into the world to make a difference. Read all through Deuteronomy. That's the whole thing Moses kept saying to people. We're going to be sent. And so this needs to be talked about in the home to this generation and that passed down to that generation. So the church is meant to send. So missions are just a practice sending your kid into the world so they can get better, not just at like a career, but really discovering their purpose.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's good. And then, just to it's what Jesus told us to do. Yeah. It's the Great Commission.
Yep.
All right. So just share a couple stories. Share something.
Yeah. I would say, one of the most transformative stories I've seen, one year we were in Guatemala and there was this girl on our team and she just full of faith. She was I think she was a sophomore at the time. And we had been doing mission trips, I think, for a few years. I think this is maybe my 5th or 6th one at the school. And so
where were you?
We were in Guatemala. Mm-hmm. We were at this orphanage and we were doing this drama and doing some evangelism and stuff. And so after the evangelism, the students had shared like their story and testimonies. We're just playing with kids at this orphanage. So it was actually like a Catholic kind of orphanage. And so there were some the nuns that were there. And so we were talking to them. We're just having casual conversation. Hey, you love Jesus, we love Jesus. And they're just watching the kids play. But there was one kind of like stern one that was there. And the story goes that, one of the girls basically felt like she needed to pray for this boy who had never walked before. So she starts putting her hands on his kneecaps and starts praying for him and actually handed, I believe he had like a cane or something like that to walk with because he'd never walked without these braces or ran before. And he starts walking and the woman leading the orphanage was like, what's happening? What are they doing? Why is she doing that? And our leader was like, I don't know. And so all of a sudden this kid is, before they know it, is running around the playground and the nuns are freaking out. The leaders they're in tears. Like, who is this Jesus? Our students are freaking out. It was just a supernatural miracle. Wow. And so that happened like the first night of ministry. So that night we could have played any worship song. It did not. We could have done Father Abraham and there would have been weeping that night because God was moving so powerfully and they were desperate for more of God. They saw him move. And it's something that still I can pinpoint so many students on that trip that now their whole life, I think the direction of their life was changed because they became desperate for a move of God in their own life. So that was a powerful moment. But then there's just so many stories of students getting ready to share their testimony, and you would think that they're sharing their testimony to peers at a school or at a church or in a park somewhere, that would be the great ministry, but they're actually beginning to talk through, do I really know Jesus? Mm-hmm. And then if they have significant brokenness in their life, maybe addiction or self-harm or pornography, or maybe they had crazy doubt in their life or abuse in their family or divorce, all these awful things that they've experienced or even chose to do, they start talking about what God's done in their life. And so they're not only declaring God's goodness, you can see the healing in their own soul as they're speaking the truth that Jesus has forgiven me and that they're loved and that they are now free. Yeah. And so it's an act of freedom that they're declaring freedom for the people that are listening to them, but you just see them And so I can just think of so many times they walk up to that microphone just so full of fear, but then perfect love casts out all fear. You see the love of God cover them, and they just...
And there's so many different kinds of mission trips. Like, you know, I took Michael and I, my oldest son, when he was 14 probably, we went to Honduras and built a church out of cinder blocks, you know, for 5 days. And so that trip was a ton of work. I mean, we were literally mixing cement by hand, you know, doing this dance, what they call the dance with a shovel. And, you know, you would just, and it was literally backbreaking work. And we had to build this. But when we left it, I mean, there was like probably some guys took their sons, and there was other men there as well. And it was like, and at night we were exhausted eating, you know, Spanish food of some type, you know, and we don't normally eat, and just sharing about our lives and things like that. And so some trips it may be sharing the gospel, some trips it may be doing medical work, some trips is just actual manual labor, but man, what a sweet experience that was for those. There was probably 15 of us there. We got that church built. At the end, we left those people with the building. They were super grateful that we were there, and you know, so there's. Not only are there mission trips to go to, but there's also different kinds of mission trips as well.
Yeah. So my mission trip story, I've got to share, is I was in India, and it was a women's trip, and we had gone to speak to women, and we had a room full of these beautiful Indian women. They were beautiful, so colorful and beautiful. And there was one lady that was just heavy laden and burdened with demons. And one of our ladies just prayed for her, and the demons literally came out, and we saw the countenance, and I'd never seen anything like that before. That is just not an experience that happens in my daily life, that you can just see the demonic.
Doesn't happen at Whole Foods like on a Tuesday?
No, it doesn't normally.
Doesn't happen in a marriage. You know?
Doesn't happen, no casting out of demons or anything like that. And I know India, you could almost feel them, and you could see them. They're so tangible. I mean, it's just that's my thing is like there's different countries. When you get off the plane, you can feel it, if it's open or if it's closed or if it's dark or if it's, you know, demonic. And I just remember thinking, oh, there's a whole nother realm that I'm not even living in. There's a whole nother spiritual realm that is so valuable to be exposed to.
So true.
Which also kind of goes into, so you have the kids going and, you know, with different, maybe their youth or church or some different organization. But sometimes we go with our kids. Yeah. And that is another way to do that. And then all of a sudden you have, not only do you get the experience like Suzanne had of seeing something else yourself, but the bond you get with your child. You know, I went with Maddox a couple weeks. Where did we go to? Indonesia.
Yeah,
a few years ago.
Because the girls were there, and they were there all summer, or they had gone to do Madeline and Macy were there for. They were there base. A base.
That's right. And so, which is another thing. You know, eventually a lot of our kids have gone on longer term mission trips as well as another option. But you know, just the time there with Maddox for 2 weeks with our daughters as well. Super valuable for the you know, we're a relationship ministry, you know, and so you want to build relationships with your kids, go on a mission trip with them.
Seriously.
I mean, it is crazy what that does and the breakthroughs that can happen.
Yeah, you can build it into a vacation if you want to. You know, like seriously, there's so many cool
like
adventures.
If you took your vacation budget.
Yeah, and just went and served together. There's so many missions organizations that do those kinds of things.
Okay, so let's just do a couple more things, and we need to wrap this up. So how would you do missions for little kids? You know, like I know that you brought your daughter on a mission trip. She remembers going in kindergarten.
Yeah, we took her to El Salvador when she was in kindergarten, and then we took, Karis was 4 when she went to Africa, and Caden was 7, went through Dubai, and it's a whole different world for sure. It's very powerful. If you're... You know, obviously, you know.
Just say that so flippantly, like, we took this one to Dubai.
Well, our kids, Madeline did too. She took her kids. They took their kids to Mexico. They took them to exactly. And Alice is going to Thailand.
Our 1-year-old granddaughter is about to go to Thailand
in June.
Well, if you haven't,
people are like, you guys are crazy.
Well, I think it's
no, the mother of the small children are crazy.
Well, you know, different neighborhoods have different races and different ethnicities. If your child has never experienced being a minority, I highly recommend it.
That's
Then
good.
just feel what it feels like to be like, oh, I'm not everyone around here looks like me.
Yeah,
That's a powerful, yes, God is very big.
Yes, and
He
diverse.
loves people, and heaven's going to be full of people that don't look like you.
Yes.
So it's such a great thing. But yeah, with little ones, I would say if you can swing it and it's the right context, the right, obviously, nursing in Africa, is a very normal thing. So it might not, but maybe it's the great move for you with little ones. But I would just say, really, the heart for littles is just helping them understand that you exist in this world not only for yourself but for others. And so helping them serve, learning how to serve, and be a servant around the house. That's a big thing. And then taking them to local food pantries, make it a part of your Thanksgiving tradition that, hey, 1 turkey for us, but we've got 5 for someone else, and we go deliver these to these people. Or our church does, the big Thanksgiving drive. But those kinds of things, and Christmas too. Those things are just great opportunities to say, hey, yes, we're opening presents tomorrow morning, but today Mommy and Daddy got 20 $10 Whataburger gift cards, and so we took that $200 that we would have spent on gifts, and we're actually going to go give these out to some people.
And you can actually even start the language of, we're a family on mission.
Yes.
And so mission trip, that's a little mission trip.
And this is what we do.
Yeah, this is
and mission doesn't mean leaving it doesn't have to mean leaving the country. It means serving outside of your box. So
I would just say for littles, practically, just obviously things around the house, but you got to be careful with that, because it's not like, hey, you're a missionary, so clean your room. It's actually appropriate. You're a missionary, clean your brother's room. That would actually be more.
You can do that.
You can do that. But I think for littles, it's just understanding that serving isn't what we do. It's who we are. We're made in the image of Jesus. Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. And so that's what it means to be a follower of Jesus and a part of the kingdom of God. We just serve. It's just what we do. So that way, it's just a part of their thinking. So that's what I would say for littles.
Okay, what about middles?
I'd say middles, it's that's where, and it might be the right time for them to go overseas, but also there's some great experiences locally, even stateside. If it's not even in your city, we went out. I led with Macy. We led a trip to Houston one time.
Yeah.
I went on a powerful mission trip one time to New York. We went to a different each of the 5 boroughs. We went to a different one every single day in different food pantries, food kitchens, like a different dialect of English in each one of those 5, a different socioeconomic group. And so there's just so many places you can go to serve. But really what you're hoping for the littles, it's learning how to serve. For the middles, yes, you still want them to realize that the world's not all about them, but really it's their theology. It's helping them see that actually to follow Jesus means to carry the hope of Jesus wherever you go. And that Romans 15:13 says that that we're made to radiate with hope, that we would actually overflow with hope as we trust in Jesus. And so you're wanting these mission trips to be like kind of little labs for them to practice what they believe.
Well, and knowing those middles, remember, that's when they're transferring from believing what you believe to believing it themselves personally. And so if you can get them in an experience and or an environment where they are face to face with, what do I believe here? What am I being exposed to?
Yes.
Okay, what about bigs?
And I would say also in the church. Littles, littles might be too young. Middles, get them serving in church.
Yes, that's good.
Like, get
that's
them
good.
And there's no reason they should not be, changing diapers or playing with kids in the kindergarten room.
Playing with kids, yeah.
Yeah, like get them. It's just a normal part of, this is what it means to be a part of the church. If you're going to church and you just show up and then you leave, you're actually teaching your kids that this is just all the church is. It's just a country club. It's a resource. It's a resource for us. So we're just there to take.
Consumer.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we always just hated as kids. I mean, as parents, when our kids are consumers.
Yeah.
Oh, give me. That's all I want.
Yeah, but you fill their lives with things that are actually all about them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then we wonder, why are they so
selfish?
Why are you so obsessed with yourself? Well, our entire calendar is like just meant for them to go do something for them.
Things. Yeah. It's so interesting. We've trained them to be consumers.
Yes.
Instead of training them to be on mission. And that's really it. Mission trips are, it can happen in the small things, but then as they get bigger, then it can happen in the big things to go to Guatemala or overseas in some way. Let me ask you this, just with the bigs, I just want to make sure we cover this. In all of your mission trips, how many instances have you had anybody not be safe?
Yeah, have you lost a kid?
We've never lost a kid. or anything like that. I would just say, if you obviously you're not just signing them up for random things to go random places, but if you have a leader that you trust in a ministry that you belong to, whether it's your church or your school or whatever,
all sorts of missions organizations
there's so many
out
missions,
there.
but at the end of the day, I think we have this false perception that we're the ones that are actually keeping our kids safe. Like we actually think I'm the one that's protecting my kid from the rest of the world. Now, don't hear me. Obviously, there's so many different wisdom for just guardrails and all that stuff in your house and protecting your kids on the internet. Yes, that's a part of our role as parents, but I think that there's this mirage, there's this like false thought that I'm actually the one keeping my kid from A, B, and C. And so that just couldn't be further from the truth. I've seen mission trips are so transformative. I've sent my own daughter on trips I haven't gone on, and man, that's hard. That was real. It's real when you're driving away from the airport going, okay, do I really believe this? Yeah. Just like the kids now being confronted with this truth of where does God belong in like my life? You're actually been praying your whole life, Jesus, this kid belongs to you. Usually when they make bad choices, you're like, Jesus, you gave her to me. You gave him to me. But but when you're putting your money where your mouth is, you're investing your resources and your time. You're giving up whatever you had to give up for them to go. Then you're driving away from the airport with your husband or your wife, and you're going, okay, Jesus, they're yours.
Yeah.
And it just is such a good thing.
I remember telling so many parents and having to believe it myself that, okay, they're on God's job assignment. I am sending them to do God's work. They are safer doing that on a plane in another country than they are driving to the grocery store by themselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I also want to speak to the logical people that just that say, oh my goodness, what are the odds? And it's like, when you have a big group of kids or a group of people in a foreign country, well-led, with there's safeguards that are put up, you do want to investigate the trip. Make sure that the leaders are there and the organizations there. It's not like you just go into it blind. But when you do that, and when they're in a foreign, we've done it now. I've seen you do it, so many times, and I just can't remember anybody. Maybe, somebody might fall down and get hurt, but it's like, that's going to happen here
That's
too.
because they've never shoveled a day in their life. That's why. That's why they break their hand painting, because they don't know what they're doing.
That's even the cool stuff. That's even the stuff that's when God shows up in that resistance and all of that stuff. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I just want to, make sure that parents understand that, a lot of our fears with our kids are unfounded, and this is one of them that it's wise to overcome and to get through those fears.
I remember telling kids all the time they were afraid to get on the plane, and I'm like, it's a win-win. You get on the plane and you get there and it's great, or the plane crashes and you survive and you've got a great story to tell, or the plane crashes and you die and you get to go live with Jesus. It's a win-win-win.
You just
parents are like, I'm out.
You can see, so I did the parent meetings. Suzanne did not do parent meetings. She talked, but you were a queen at talking moms and dads off the ledge for sure about getting them to
explain that. Suzanne used to work with Chris at the Christian school, and that's what
we did
in the spiritual life department.
We did.
Okay, so we need to wrap this up, and so we could do it forever. We could talk forever, but we've got things we need to move on to. So we talk all the time about our CCCs, and so today we just want to wrap this up with it's a crazy cool calling. It's actually your kid's purpose to go on mission. There's so many scriptures that tell us. With Matthew 28, we'll talk about that one in a second, but Mark 16:15, go into the world and preach the gospel to all creation. And 1 Chronicles 16:25, declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all his people. That's what we're called to do, parents. That's the reason that we've been given these children, is so that they will advance the kingdom, so they will bring God's life, light, and love into everybody they come into contact with. And so if your kids aren't bringing life, light, and love everywhere they go, then maybe it's time to mix their world up a little bit and send them out into the, great blue yonder.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Really, thank you for being here. Thank you for just serving the Lord and taking so many kids, leaving your family. We've had many times, talking about the calling and all the things you've done. Thank you for serving, loving, being a part of kids' lives, and really taking them into the unknown in so many ways, and such transformation happens. And so parents, we hope we've sold you a little bit on taking your kids on mission, of having a family on mission for one, the connections that these trips can make when you go together, and the uncomfortability, the good of the uncomfortability of your kids moving into a new world, new language, new culture, all the things. And then finally, I just think about them seeing, we live in a pretty cush world over here in the U.S., most of us, not everybody, but I mean, a lot of people, even, the poverty level here is different in many ways than the poverty level in other places, but it's real when you go overseas and you see different socioeconomic and all those things. And so really, hopefully we're selling you a little bit on getting over the fear of sending your kids on mission.
Anything else?
I would just say the best thing is just every single place you go, God gets bigger.
That's good.
And the bigger God gets, the more you're forced with the reality to discover that you are made for so much more than the life that you're currently living.
That's good. And so Jesus said it. The Great Commission, that was his last commandment. Go and make disciples of all the nation, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And so if Jesus said it, then let's do it.
Let's do it.
So thanks, Chris. Thanks, Suze.
Yep.
As
Thanks,
always,
Don.
parents.
Thanks, guys.
Go send your family on mission. Go be crazy, literally, parents. crazycoolfamily.com.